Welcome to the Nerd Party.
Let the filibustering begin.
Welcome to Nerd Party.
Hello and welcome to episode 150 of Filibuster here on the Nerd Party Network, featuring classic shows like Nerd Nuptial, Missing Frames and Aggressive Negotiations, and featuring brand new shows like Retro Perspective with John Mills and Mike Schindler, where they look at the films of 1994, and one that I'm a little biased for, the A24 Project, which drops its 7th episode next week, where me and Dallas look at the films of A24 every 2 weeks. So Dallas, here we are, episode 150, 2019. It's good to be back again.
Absolutely. Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year to you as well. Usually we open these episodes, we're talking about the films that we've sort of seen in the past few weeks, but I've been unwell, so I haven't seen anything and feel like I'm the only person on the planet that hasn't seen Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse yet, but I'm sure I'll get onto that soon enough. But looking kind of for this episode, we're going to look at sort of our top 5 films of 2018. I mean, if people are looking for top 25s and fuller lists, you can find them obviously online, but we're going to focus on our top 5 and then the top 5 films that we're going to keep an eye out for in 2019. So it'll be interesting to hear what our favourite of the year was and then see what's going to be getting us excited for the next year.
Absolutely. And yeah, I think there's no spoilers yet, but a film that you just mentioned may be on my top 5. But yeah, we normally do top 5s on the episode, so we thought we'd stick to 5 because, yeah, I mean, I definitely struggled trying to get down to like a top 10 this year. But I think it was, top 5 is, my top 5 were pretty locked. It was the sort of 6 to sort of 15 sort of category was moving and shifting all the time, but I'm pretty safe in my top 5, so I'm happy to go with those, yeah.
Excellent. Well, yeah, it's always one of these ones that I think when I made my list for certain years, like it's always about 2 years later, you think the film that I had down as like number 9 is in reality actually become my favourite film of that year, but by kind of default really, where you start thinking like, I've been watching that one more, I think about that one more, or that film that I loved at that time. Yeah, it was good for that year, but what was I thinking at that time? But I think this year, I've seen people say it's been a bit of a mixed year. I think it's been a pretty well, 2018 has been a pretty good year personally.
Yeah, no, I think it was a very good year for film, particularly horror films. There was a lot of horror films in my sort of top 25. I think if you look at it from a perspective of blockbuster films, it wasn't a great year for blockbuster films. You had like Venom, which was terrible, the Predator reboot, sequel, whatever it was. That was pretty awful. I mean, there was only 2 proper blockbusters in my top 20 until like the middle of December when a third one sort of got in there. But again, it was one that kind of was going under the radar, but is now very well received and very highly thought of, but we'll get onto that in a minute. But yeah, I was very let down with the sort of random sort of blockbusters and the sort of sequels and stuff like that beyond the ones that I'm about to mention. But yeah, no, I thought it was a very good year. I mean, but it's that thing that I think we're going to have some sort of talk in our sort of top 5s about this, because I go by the UK release dates for all my films, and I think you've gone by what you've seen in the year, and a lot of stuff that appears on people's lists that comes out for the Oscar season, whatever, when you get to it, it's like, I mean, I looked back on like The Shape of Water and 3 Billboards and stuff like that, and it's like, I saw them at the beginning of the year, I thought they were great, but you know, there was things that I saw later on in the year that were just better and more memorable to me. I mean, I normally like to try and rewatch everything in my top 10 before, in order to, before I lock it down, but I just wasn't able to, just because of the sheer volume of films that were out this year and other sort of projects and stuff like that. So I haven't been able to rewatch everything, but I mean, the top 5 basically made a hell of an impression on first viewing and have stayed with me. I mean, certain scenes in certain films have stayed with me for the entire year, and I'm very happy with my choices.
So we actually have a special offer for listeners thanks to our friends at the Royal Scottish National Orchestra, where you can get 20% off tickets to their Sci-Fi Spectacular concert. So that's on Friday the 25th of January in Edinburgh, and then the next day on the 26th in Glasgow. And it'll feature music from Star Wars, Star Trek, 2001 A Space Odyssey, Close Encounters of the Third Kind, Avatar and Alien, and much more. So you can find out more about this show at the rsno.org.uk/film and enter the code JEDI20, that's all one word, JEDI20, and it will give you a 20% discount on all the tickets. So we'll also put that on the show notes as well, so you can easily access the offer there as well. So it's a fantastic offer, and it's a show that me and yourself are going to be attending as well, so it's always a treat to hear music from Star Wars, Star Trek and so on live. So I'm really excited to hear what surprises they've also got up their sleeves for the night.
Absolutely.
As well too.
I mean, they are the number one orchestra to watch live, and I mean, they've, for the last, I think it's maybe 4 years, they've done a sort of a film screening at the Edinburgh International Film Festival. They did Back to the Future, they've done E.T., Raiders of the Lost Ark, Jaws, and they have all been absolutely fantastic. I mean, we saw Star Wars recently with an orchestra that wasn't the RSNO, and I was not as blown away as I normally am. I don't know if it was because of the venue that we were at. It wasn't in a traditional sort of theatre setting, but I think the RSNO, they cannot be touched when it comes to this kind of stuff live, and I'm very excited to hear some of those classic themes live in orchestra.
So Dallas, let's dive into the top 5 for 2018. So what was your number 5 for 2018?
Well, it's the film that you mentioned earlier and are currently cursed with not being able to see. It was Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse.
Yeah, like everyone has told me this film is great. I think every single, like the Nerd Party did a blog where it was like, here's all our lists of top 10 films for the year, and I was the only one that didn't have Spider-Verse in it, and it's like, but I haven't seen it, so I can't contribute towards this. So I was due to see it before I went on holiday, but I just ran out of time. Then I was on holiday, didn't see it, came back unwell, so I've had to miss out like 2 times. So I will be seeing it in the next couple of days. So I'm curious to see, like, even just now, just seeing the trailers, I think that looks good. I saw the preview at the end of Venom, it looks okay. I'm curious to hear and see why this film is as great as it is.
For me personally, I know there's been some chatter on the Nerd Party forums because it was voted the overall. I think I managed to tally up everything in between all the positions, and there's the sheer number of votes. It was Nerd Party's number 1 film of last year, and for me, it is the best Spider-Man movie of all time. And that's right, I'm saying it's better than Spider-Man 2. So that's just me. For me, it's the perfect distillation of what the character can be, the characters can be, because there are, I mean, it's no spoilers to say there are several different incarnations of Spider-Man within this one. Which is the true Spider-Man? I believe it might be the Peter B. Parker is the sort of the sort of Sony's Marvel's Spider-Man, the one that we mostly know from the movies. But this is the sort of genesis of the Miles Morales character, who may come in at some point into the MCU, but I think there's a way to get around that and have an animated Spider-Man cinematic universe and the MCU version, the Tom Holland version of Spider-Man, who could, again, potentially come in and out of this universe as well. But just the way it's told, the animation is just mind-blowing. It's quite jarring to begin with. It's sort of almost done in this sort of graffiti street art style, and it can be quite intense to begin with, but it totally works for the character, and it totally works for the story they're trying to tell, and the sort of different styles of animation depending on which character you're following and stuff, which I thought was fantastic. The writing by sort of Phil Lord, part of Lord and Miller, is brilliant. There's so many great gags. It's very, very self-aware. It totally knows its market. It totally knows the fact that, yes, we've been told the Spider-Man story, origin story, many, many times, so it kind of takes the piss out of that as well. But the action it shows that animation is really the medium in which you can tell a Spider-Man story the best way. There are no limitations to what you can do in the story in terms of action and drama and stuff like that. And it was just utterly mind blowing. And I just left with the biggest grin on my face. There is, there's always this thing about end credit scenes. Can they top the MCU's end credit stings? I mean, for me, they have done. The MCU, my favorite one is currently the Captain America one that was at the end of Spider-Man Homecoming, where he's going on about patience and how, you wait ages for something and then it comes in, it's very disappointing and stuff like that, which was just a great gag about the whole situation. But for me, the Spider-Verse end credit gag and what it does is, I was just laughing like all the way out of the cinema. I just thought it was utterly fantastic. And yeah, for me, the best Spider-Man film ever made, the best superhero film of 2018 as well.
Do you think it, like, you saw like half an hour worth of this footage, I think, at that Comic-Con? Did you have like any idea like the film would be this good? It's because it seems like there was never really any buzz for this movie at all, and even sort of with the post-credit stinger with something like Venom, it was kind of like, oh, that looks pretty good. And what's kind of caused the disconnect, do you think, between the expectations going in and then people seeing this movie and just exploding
I'm not
about
really
it?
sure because I mean, I was completely sold by the end of the first half hour, and the footage we saw was the very beginning of the film. So it was the first 30 minutes up until the first two versions of Spider-Man meet, essentially. So it leaves you hanging and you really wanted to know what happened. But I mean, I saw it in a non-cinema setting, so it was in like one of these convention centers so the sound wasn't all that great, and it was projected on a sort of makeshift screen, but it was still. So that's when I thought that, oh, okay, this is quite interesting in terms of the visual aspect and what they're going with it, but it totally works in a cinema setting, and you could tell that the humor was there. It knew what it was going to be, and the voice cast is great. And yeah, I don't know if it's just general sort of superhero fatigue and the fact that we'd already had Infinity War out at that point, and Venom, which I mean, again, a lot of people were down on Venom critically anyway, but it still has managed to make $855 million worldwide somehow, and is now just recently been greenlit for a sequel. But yeah, I think it's just one that people weren't expecting it to be any good, and the fact that we've just had so much Spider-Man, it was almost like Spider-Man overdose. And within the film, it takes a bit of that. The fact that you've got 6 or 7 different Spider-Men, it's just like, it knows what it is, but it's just the sheer confidence in which it's delivered. It completely sells it for me. And as far as I'm aware, I haven't found anyone so far who has not liked this film. I don't think it's probably not. I mean, the animation. Oh, have you heard some bad things? Because I mean, there's probably some critics who didn't like the animation style, and whatever. Or that guy, is it Jeffrey Wells or whatever, who always wants to basically go against the grain. And if somebody's got 100%, he wants to write that one negative review that gets it off 100%. But
I've heard it's trippy. That's like, I've managed to kind of keep like. There's like a nerd party group chat about this movie going on just now, and I have that completely muted. I've not read any of the review, but I can't ignore sort of the buzz on Twitter. But none of it really mentioned the animation style. I think I saw Seth Rogen admit that he could get high watching the movie or something like that. So that's probably about as much as I kind of know visual wise. So again, I'm kind of lucky that I managed to keep myself sort of isolated from what this movie is going to be largely going to be about.
Yeah, no, the visual style it can be quite intense. It's very, very colourful. It is very fastly edited. The styles which they use, it can be, I think, a bit trippy, especially in 3D. I've only watched it in 2D, but I think in 3D it'd be quite something else as well. Just the way that it's all put together using traditional some sort of hand drawn style, but then it's enhanced with sort of CGI and stuff like that. So yeah, it could be quite intense, and I think it has got one of those strobe warnings at the cinemas beginning that it does. It could trigger epilepsy if you were so affected, I think.
Well, I look forward to finally seeing it and being the last person on the planet to catch it out. It's still going strong, so that's a good sign. So I will
Well,
definitely.
I know I've hyped it up incredibly, but hopefully that hype will pay off, and you won't find yourself disappointed after everyone has said it's like the best film.
Exactly, and well, unfortunately, it won't be able to break into my list at this stage. But maybe I can retroactively add it in. But we'll see where it lands.
Yes. Yeah. So what was your number 5 of the year?
No surprise to anyone that's spoken to me or listened to this podcast or our different podcasts that have ended up covering it, but I've gone with Hearts Beat Loud at number 5. It was one of the most
Excellent choice.
heartwarming films of the year, and I saw first the Edinburgh Film Festival, and I remembered, and all the way back in episode like 98 or whatever it was, where it was like, let's have a look through the brochure, what films catch our fancy, and I was like, oh, this one about Nick Offerman starting a band with his daughter, that sounds like my kind of thing. And then I went to see the film blind and came out, with tears in my eyes, and got to speak to the director, which was awesome. And then I went to see it again a few months later to my girlfriend, who enjoyed some of it, was a bit nonplussed about some of it. So, I'd seen it twice, but when I was flying over to America just a few weeks ago, I was very happy that the film was on British Airways in-flight entertainment on the way there and back. So I watched it all the way through going over there, and then when I was coming back, it was like a light night plane journey. So I just watched the bit where they perform Hearts Beat Loud for the first time, and then I watched the whole scene where they do the last gig coming back. But the film still really, really worked for me on like this third viewing, and I just think it's just one of the most sort of charming films of the year. Like Kirsty Clemons, Nick Offerman, like they're so good in this film together, and like the music they make is genuinely awesome. Like I haven't stopped listening to that soundtrack since I got out of that screening, begged and hoped it was going to be on Spotify, and it was, and the music I've not been able to shake off. And how it has not been nominated for Oscars or Golden Globes or whatever for performances or films, I appreciate it's not the biggest film in the world, it's not going to get much notice, but how that film didn't get a nomination for music is just beyond me. It's a really special movie, and it's filled with some moments where you watch it and you watch a movie like this and it's so sweet and genuine, and you just want other people to see it as well. You missed it at the film festival due to travel commitments, and I was like, Dallas, when you see this film you've got to see it. And then to other people it's like, hey, you've got your list here with your Spider-Mans, whatever, but have you seen Hearts Beat Loud? And this film is just, it's number 5 in my list, which it's still really high in my opinion. That's 5 out of 200 odd films I saw at the cinema this year, so I hope people don't think of 5 as something like, oh, that that's okay. I guess that is a really high place to be in my list, and I think it's a film that means a lot to me, I think.
Yeah, no, I loved it when I finally got to see it, and it was well worth the wait. The relationship between sort of Nick Offerman and Kirsty Clemons was really well told, and I really appreciate the fact that the film didn't go the way you would expect it to go, in the down on his luck guy who runs a record shop in Brooklyn. The rent's going up. Oh, he's gonna lose the store. Oh, so they could they'll probably put a gig on and be able to raise enough money in order to save the store. But it doesn't play out that way, and I really, really like that aspect of it. And like you say, the songs are fantastic, and it's definitely one of the feel good films of the year, I think.
Absolutely. So what's your number 4 then?
Number 4 is the favourite blockbuster of the year, and probably one of my favourite blockbusters of the last sort of 5-10 years maybe, and that was Mission Impossible Fallout.
Yeah, I'm surprised this ended up not being your number 2 or something like that.
Well, there's probably a running theme slightly between my top 3, which makes me worry for my sanity slightly. But this for me was, it's like everyone was saying over the last the last 10 years, oh, The Raid is like the best action film ever made. It's like, oh, Mad Max Fury Road is the best action film ever made, and it's like Tom Cruise has just gone, hold my beer, if he even drinks beer. I don't know. Maybe that's how he probably doesn't drink because that's how he keeps so fit at the age of 56 and doing things that people half his age are unable to do. But Christopher McQuarrie, he came on to direct sort of Rogue Nation, and for me, it was the best Mission Impossible film to date until this one came out, and he's just excelled himself. It just goes from one set piece to the next set piece, and when you create a film where everyone is talking about such a gifable moment as Henry Cavill cocking his arms as guns and sort of delivering in a bathroom fight, it's just immense. And the fact that so much of it seems to have been done practically. But I think one of the reasons why it's so high on my list is when you start listening to the story of how they made this, and there's a great sort of nearly sort of 5 to 6 hours of Chris McQuarrie talking to Chris Hewitt on the Empire Pod spoiler specials, and they go into, and basically they were almost making it up as they went along. He had an idea of what he wanted the film to be, but then he'd be writing on the day scenes and stuff like this, or they went to scout one location for the finale and then came across something else and decided, oh, there's a helicopter with this giant sort of net of boulders. It's like, well, I know that Tom Cruise is going to go up on that, up in the air and stuff like this, and it's like utterly insane that they've managed to create a film so good when you hear of all these other films who make it up as they go along. We didn't go into the film with a finished script, and it's like, yeah, I can tell. And it's like, I would not have been able to tell watching Mission Impossible Fallout that this was kind of almost made on the fly, sort of day to day, because it is utterly astounding and one of the most genuine sort of heart-pounding thrill rides I've seen in recent years, I think.
Yeah, there's not much else I can add to really sort of all the plaudits this film has received, but I would say one thing, that I think the success of this film was summed up to me in a moment just after kind of Christmas, where I think it was like Boxing Day or whatever, and I was with my girlfriend's family, and her grandmother's there, her niece, her auntie, and they're all just sat around the TV watching Mission Impossible Fallout on the TV, and you're like, well, this isn't the type of audience that I could have imagined for the first 3 Mission Impossibles, let alone the last ones. There's something about this film where it has really broken through to different audiences and crowds, that people are kind of watching this essentially as a bit of a family movie on Boxing Day. Not just, the guys of the family picking the movie, but that was like all women that were sitting there watching. And I thought it was a really kind of nice moment of like, oh, this film has broken through in a way that very few action movie franchises or action movies can sometimes do.
Yeah, I think, because I mean, it was a 12A in the UK, but there is nothing really too extreme in terms of like violence and swearing and stuff like that. So it almost does feel like it could almost be like, your old school sort of traditional family blockbuster that you would take them up to, and it's got strong female characters in sort of form of Rebecca Ferguson, who can handle herself on her own. She doesn't need a man to protect her and stuff like that. So yeah, it's got something for everyone, and I think we're reaching this turning point where I think we can almost forget now the whole jumping on the sofa sort of Oprah thing, and people are now rediscovering just how great a movie star Tom Cruise is. I'm not going to say actor, because he's basically, it's like The Rock was a similar person, that they have created a niche for themselves and they know how to play it, and they deliver time and time again. And he's coming back to do sort of Top Gun 2, where apparently he's now wanting to learn to fly jet planes himself. And like, of course he is. He's probably gonna watch Flatliners and actually go, oh, see that, I want to do that for real, Chris. I want you to basically technically make me dead and then bring me back with a defibrillator. And I don't think we can do that. I'm going to do it. I'm going to practice at home. And it's like, oh my God, he's just insane. But I mean, they just deliver the time and time again. Mission Impossible franchise, with the exception of 2, I think everyone in the nerd party agrees that 2 is the worst. But I mean, it's a franchise which is getting better and better and better as the films go along, and it shouldn't be getting better and better. Sort of 6 films in, and what is it, about 23 years or something like that? You should not be able to be this good. And the fact there's still no franchise fatigue with this. People want to see more. Chris McCoy said he's not going to come back. He's done it, but if they throw enough money at him and say you can shoot the next one in space, who knows? Maybe they will.
It definitely is getting to that stage where it's getting so big, the only place next for it left is space, really. So, I think a lot of people would agree or have this movie in their top fives as well.
Absolutely. So what's in your top four?
Yeah, this is where we sort of diverge a little bit. So I caught this movie in America when I was over there, and it was one of my most anticipated movies for 2019. And then I had the opportunity to make it one of my favourite movies of 2018, and that's Vice, starring Christian Bale as Dick Cheney, the former Vice President of America under George W. Bush. So I don't want to say too much about this one because obviously it's coming out later this month in the UK. It's actually getting a Cineworld Unlimited screening next Wednesday as well, on the 16th, I believe. So I would highly recommend people, if they've got their Unlimited cards, book up for this now. Otherwise, get sorted for this movie. I mean, we're only a few days after the Golden Globes, and Christian Bale, with what sounds like a more thick Cockney accent than ever before, was thanking Satan himself for the inspiration for this film. And I love this movie. I mean, whenever, like, all these lists, they're always personal, but this one is a very personal pick for me because I love American politics, and I especially love the palace intrigue behind it all. And this film takes an individual like Dick Cheney, that people are familiar with him, or we've heard the whispers where he's the real president. It wasn't George Bush, not that idiot. This was the real guy in power, and it really kind of tries to explore what the making of someone that was essentially just a bit of a boozer, a bit of a down and out, working up on pylons, how he became essentially one of the most powerful men on the planet. And I think Dick Cheney's role in the invasion of Iraq, which has really gone on to have such significant consequences for the world. Essentially, that invasion came down to him in his office. And what was it about that man that wanted to seek such amount of power? What was it about that man that he wanted to kind of go to war with Iraq? What was the involvement? What was that all about? And if anyone's seen The Big Short, the film is very much in that kind of mold. It breaks things down. It has tonal shifts. It features some of the best performances of the year. I mean, Christian Bale, people are like, well, he's won the award for putting on weight and having a daft haircut. But you forget very quickly that is Christian Bale under, all that fat and lard. You are genuinely blown away by, like, the performance, and it's all in the eyes. So if anyone that's telling you he's getting the award for putting on weight, they're just giving you a lazy hot take, I think, there, to be honest. I think it's just such a great and biting film. And I took my girlfriend to see it, who knew nothing about Dick Cheney, hadn't even seen sort of the trailer for the film, and even she was hooked by the film. So this is a film I think people will really enjoy, and it's certainly really, really biting. And I saw someone on Politico say, well, it's movies like this that get Trump elected, typical liberal bias. No, this is a film that shows how a huge mistake was made and how we went into Iraq and the people that were behind it, and looking at it through a very different way. I mean, the invasion of Iraq is one of the biggest historical moments in the past few years. So how that happened and got to there deserves to be explored, and I think this film explores it incredibly well. And I can't wait to see what Adam McKay does next, because he is on 2 for 2 for me at the moment. I mean, I rewatched The Big Short actually coming back on the plane. It was randomly on there, and it still holds up as well. So I think this is going to be a real treat for people in the UK when it comes out.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to this, and I absolutely loved The Big Short and the way that it dealt with the financial crisis, and using the sort of cutaways to having celebrities tell you about stock markets and bonds and stuff like that in order to sort of break it down and make it more palatable. And the fact that that film was essentially a comedy that turned into a drama that turned into a horror film for me, and just how reckless these people were with the money and how they managed to bring everything down. And yeah, it was just truly horrifying. But yeah, no, I mean, so if it's told in a similar style to that, then I'm very much looking forward to it. And this is Adam McKay, of course, who also did Anchorman, so that's great. And I always find it funny that at the end of, I think I rewatched Anchorman recently. At the end, it sort of said Brick Tamland would become an advisor to the Bush White House, and of course Steve Carell's playing Donald Rumsfeld in the Bush White House in this one. So it's a nice way to bring that back around again. But I can't wait to see it. And yeah, I think Christian Bale's a fantastic actor, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what he brings to the role.
And I look forward to discussing this in more depth in a future episode.
Absolutely, in a future episode, exactly.
So what's your number 3 as we break the top 3?
Number 3 for me is Hereditary. Is this appearing in your top?
That was in my. It isn't in my top. It was in my. It was at number 9 for me, so I just missed out.
Yeah, no, this for me was one of those films which has stayed with me the entire year. I mean, just below this, my number 6 was A Quiet Place, and I remember watching that film in complete silence. I was lucky enough to be in one of those screenings where people were very well behaved and they were too scared to make noise in fear of ruining the experience. But I remember that there's a moment in Hereditary where the wind was basically knocked out of me, and it felt like all the air was sucked out of the cinema where I was watching it. People could not believe what they'd just seen. And it's basically after this moment, there's just one shot of how this thing has affected the person, and you're just like, because the film totally wrong foots you. If you haven't seen the film and you've seen the trailers, you think it's going one way and it goes in a different way, and you cannot believe that this has just happened. And Toni Collette, for me, delivers one of the finest performances of the year. I know we mentioned her a lot on the A24 project, but I think she's still got an outside shot of an Oscar nomination. I mean, there is the bias that it's a horror film, but for me, it's one of the most. I mean, that dinner scene where she sort of yells at the kid, "I am your mother." It's just, she's terrifying yet also very sympathetic, and you really feel for her in what she's going through in this film. And yeah, there's just, like I say, I don't want to go into spoiler territory for anyone who hasn't seen it, but yeah, there are things which I cannot unsee with this film, and it's one I highly recommend, because it sort of strays into that sort of thing of sort of the Babadook and The Shining, where it's labeled as a horror film, but really it's like an exploration of almost sort of grief and mental illness as well. And it's about a very, very human story, which is just so happens to be kind of wrapped up in a horror setting as well.
Yeah, I'm not going to add anything more to this film because I agree. I think it's fantastic, but I would encourage people to check it out. But I saw online this week, I think it's going viral, and I think A24 shared it, that someone had a Hereditary themed party, which looked absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm not sure if my wife would throw me one of those, because I think it would basically involve people sort of bowing down to me naked, but. Yeah, who knows? Maybe for my 40th next year, I could have a Hereditary theme party.
So that's a great way to see in a 40th, and count me in for that one.
Well, actually, maybe I could go with one of my other 2 top picks as a theme party. I think there's definitely one to be had with my number 1 choice.
Well, my thing sort of, if we were to sort of do this as a 40th for you, if we were like, right, how will we treat Dallas for 40th? I would not recommend my number 3, which is Caliber, where 2 men go on a hunting trip and it all goes wrong. So that is not going to be your 40th, but it will be my number 3.
Yeah, no, this was an utterly fantastic film for me, and I'm really excited to hear your thoughts again. Have you managed to see it again since Edinburgh?
No, I haven't had a chance to see it yet, because I'm almost, not that I'm scared to watch it again, but I had such an incredible time watching it in the cinema, and like that experience of seeing it that first time was just so good. I'm like, I don't need to see it again for a little while or anything like that. It was so good, and I just wanted to keep that kind of captured in that. And I mean, it hasn't helped that there's been so many films I wanted to watch and catch up on, or I've had to watch for sort of the A24 project, that I time hasn't really been afforded to even consider rewatching it. But I just loved that first experience, and I think we saw that one actually together, where I think it's another one of these movies where, like Hereditary and so on, where the less you know going in, the better. Where it's, at the best we can describe it is a hunting accident gone wrong, and that barely scratches the surface of what unfolds. But I just think it's one of the best films of the year for me, because for a lot of reasons. Was that experience, seeing it in the cinema, the surprise of the whole film. About, I expected it to be good, but I didn't expect it to be that good. And I was really blown away in the cinema. I think what the film has done for Netflix, people are talking about, all the bird boxes, and I'm sure there's loads of great kind of Netflix movies that have kind of come out recently, things like Roma. But Caliber felt like it was maybe this, the conversation was starting to change a little bit, that it was a place where movies were being dumped. And when you hear like, a movie made in Scotland, by a Scottish director, it's a small one, it's not like Outlaw King where it's got a big budget, you think, oh, it's been put onto Netflix, has it just been dumped on there? When in reality, like, this is a fantastic Scottish film that Netflix have seen and went, we want that film. And that film has gone around the world and is being viewed in Australia, Iceland, Timbuktu, wherever. And that's fantastic as well. And I think it's a great film with great actors, Jack Lowden, Tony Curran, Martin McCann, Kate Bracken. It's just so good, and it's so tense. And it's one of these films that you kind of get excited to keep telling people about. People are still discovering this film, and you'll see people going, hey, I'm having a Netflix night, what should I watch? And everyone will say, Bird Box, what about the new Black Mirror? Whereas, I think there's still people that are saying, check out Caliber, and then you'll get another person that will follow up going, hey, I've seen that is really good. So it seems to be a film that I wonder how long it would have lasted in the cinemas if it had gone that traditional route. But I think this is a film that has really benefited from being on Netflix, and it really has flown the flag for Scotland.
Yeah, I know. There was that sort of couple of months on Netflix where Tony Curran was basically the golden boy. He had Caliber and then followed it up with Outlaw King. So like he was a man. But I mean, we benefited by getting to see it on the big screen, and it was a really sort of intense screening. And these press screenings at the festival, they normally are sort of middling to low crowds because it's first thing in the morning, but this one was pretty much sold out. I know it was because partly, the sort of hometown advantage for the filmmaker as well, but he really delivered, and I think everyone was really blown away by just how good this was for like a first feature film. Like you say, I mean, the story is maybe not anything new, but it's tried and tested formula. But I mean, the acting is fantastic, the filmmaking is great, and like you say, it was one of the sort of first ones on Netflix to really sort of get sort of launched on there, and people are finding it. I mean, when you get Stephen King of all people basically saying on Twitter, guys, you should check out Caliber, this, it was fantastic, he's recommending it and stuff like that. And yeah, it's like, if people have said, I've just watched Bird Box, has anyone got any other recommendations? I've seen a lot of people saying, have you checked out Caliber? And it's one that I think, well, if you like this, you will also like, and I think people will find it and stuff like that. And yeah, so it's one that people will continue to find, and I think I'm excited to see what Matt does next.
Yeah, I can't wait, and I'm sure it'll be an absolute great one. And I think, like, we did like a bit of a special a few weeks ago where me and you were on holiday, but we put out like a compilation of interviews, and kind of looking at our stats for episode numbers and stuff, we get to see these things. Like the Caliber podcast that we did have been some of our most popular ones, because it kind of gave me, when I was speaking with the guys, it gave me a bit of an insight into how sort of the Netflix model for promotion of a film like, say, this works, for example, where I was like to Matt, so where do you head next? And he was like, well, they'll send us wherever the film is really resonating and connecting with. And he's been doing interviews and coverage here and there, but we were so lucky to get that cast and him all in one kind of space at one time. So people, it shows that there's an audience out there that are seeing the movie on Netflix and then searching for Caliber on the podcast stores or whatever, and they're finding our podcast, which has been really good. So we've certainly, our episodes benefited from it, and it's been great that we've been able to give it a bit of extra kind of coverage and stuff like that as well. So and I don't think many other podcasts or even interviews will have all the cast kind of together. So it's been really good to sort of have a bit of synergy with this Netflix original in a way.
Absolutely, and I guess that sort of swings nicely onto my number 2, because my number 2 is a Netflix film in the UK anyway, and it's one which I really, really wish had a cinema release over here, but for reasons that are best left to the filmmakers and the distributors, I guess, is one that got dumped onto Netflix. But it was released in, I think it was early March, and has stayed with me ever since, and that is Annihilation.
Yeah, this is a film I really, really need to see again and stuff. I watched it pretty tired and a bit unwell earlier in the year, and I haven't had a chance to rewatch it yet. So I really need to get this revisited again, because I thought it was great, but I don't have a strong opinion on it because I was barely conduit during it.
Yeah, I guess that is the problem of sometimes watching Netflix films. If you're watching it sort of late at night, at home or whatever, there are distractions, I guess. You could, your phone goes or something, or you see like an actor in it, you're like, oh, who's that again? I recognize them, and then you sort of checking your phone to find out who it is and stuff. But for me, this was one where I think I managed to watch it on the TV at home, and basically had the place myself so I could just fully focus on it, and I was just utterly blown away by. I mean, this is Alex Garland, who made sort of Deus Ex Machina, and actually not Deus Ex Machina, just Ex Machina. I don't know why I'm adding that in. And also sort of wrote 28 Days Later. And, this has really shown that he is becoming a filmmaker to watch, especially within the genre sci-fi. It stars Natalie Portman as a woman whose husband has gone missing into this sort of weird alien type space within a forest, and sort of on going in to try and find him, discovers strange things have happened, and also things that are happening to the people who go within, and it sort of twists with their mind and whatever. So it's almost like sort of Solaris meets Predator, almost, in terms of the sort of things that come up. I mean, the thing that probably most people are aware of, even if they haven't seen it, is this sort of the skull bear that turns up, which has been mutated and then sort of takes on the scream of the person it's killed last and stuff in one of those most memorable sequences. But there's also got sort of bits that sort of remind you of Under the Skin and stuff. It's sort of very sort of highbrow, sort of intelligent sci-fi. It's not one that will, it's got loads of explosions and sort of quick one-liners and whatever, which is, I guess, why part of the reason why it came on to Netflix in the UK is because the distributor in the US didn't think there was enough mainstream potential and was wanting Garland to change bits of it, and he said, I'm not changing a frame of my film. So they said, well, fine, you go into Netflix then, and that's what happened. But I'm really glad that he stuck to his guns, because I thought the film was utterly fantastic. I know that it's certainly one that split opinion on the Nerd Party. I think there was someone who said it was their least favourite film of the year. Well, I say least favourite is probably a kind way of putting
that rushing
it.
Of aggressive negotiations almost.
Yeah, so it was, least favourite was a very kind way to put it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm definitely going to revisit that one again soon. And I nearly picked up on Blu-ray when I was in America, but and then I was like, right, I'll just grab it next time, like I'm there. And then I never passed by another Best Buy or Target. It's like so hard to find a DVD or anything shop over in Massachusetts. So
anywhere
the opportunity to pick it up passed me by.
It really is, because I was in New York recently, and yeah, beyond one Best Buy on Fifth Avenue, it's really difficult to get that kind of stuff. Because even like their Walmarts and sort of Walgreens and supermarkets and stuff don't seem to do DVDs and Blu-rays like they do over here. So I don't know where people go for their physical media over there, but maybe everyone's digital over there now. I don't know.
Good old Amazon.
So what's your number 2 of 2018?
Yeah, my number 2 is The Square. So I don't know how many people have actually seen this one. I've only seen this in another top 10 or 15 list of the year. So I don't know how much of a breakthrough this film made, but it's all about a museum's art curator who finds himself going through a bit of a professional and personal crisis while he's setting up an art exhibit, which is a square that is made out of neon lights in the middle of a square. And so it's a film that sounds terribly pretentious, and it certainly is. It's from writer-director Ruben Östlund, who did Force Majeure, which is actually getting a remake this year, I think, from Julia Louis-Dreyfus and Will Ferrell. But this film is one of the funniest, one of the sharpest and most biting satires of the art world that I have ever seen, and I thought it was one of the funniest films that I saw this year. There's some real scenes of absurdity. I mean, there's an art exhibit where they have this man who's pretending to be like an ape, and he is topless and he has like prosthetics on his arms, and he goes around this posh dinner and he's grunting in people's faces, and this goes on for about 20 minutes, and it is one of those things where it gets funnier and funnier and then more awkward the longer it goes on. And the film is filled with moments like that, of absurd moments and issues in bedrooms, and there's a monkey kicking around in a room at one point, and it's so surreal. And it was a film that caught me by surprise. I just thought it had a really striking trailer, and then it proved to be one of my favourite films of the year. And I think that's probably benefited from. I mean, you see 100+ whatever movies, and you start looking for something that's that bit different, a bit more surreal, that sticks out. And something like The Square, when it comes along, you're like, I haven't seen a film like this in months or years. This is something different, for better or worse, and it was one of my favourite films of the year. And I know you can get it on sort of the Curzon home video store, and you can get it in places like FOP or whatever, and Amazon for maybe like £6 or something like that on Blu-ray. I highly recommend people check it out. I mean, it could be one, people might get a bit distracted with their phones, but the performances and the absurdity will certainly keep people hooked.
Yeah, no, it's one which sadly I wasn't able to catch in the cinema, but I believe it is actually now on Netflix. Certainly Netflix UK, it has just popped up. So I will be checking it out on some downtime. Yeah, no, I know the sequence that you're talking about. It's actually, I think it's Terry Notary who's doing the ape thing, and he's basically the go-to guy now that isn't Andy Serkis when it comes to sort of performance capture, and he sort of played some of the apes, and basically he was the number 2 ape in all the Planet of the Apes films and stuff like that. So yeah, he's that guy, and yeah, no, that's I've seen that sequence, but I really want to catch the rest of the film, because it's certainly something that I think certainly is right up my street and will appeal to me. So I will be catching it. It's on my list of films which I missed in 2018 and really need to catch up on. So that and The Rider, which is something which I've missed as well, which I really want to see now. It's winning lots of smaller awards as well.
Yeah, those are definitely 2 movies worth checking out. So what's your next choice then?
Well, my number 1 film of the year is probably not a surprise to anyone who listened to my defense of it on the podcast on a previous episode, but it is Luca Guadagnino's remake of Suspiria.
Yeah, when we discussed it the first time together, I enjoyed it. You had mentioned you loved it. It was your favourite film of the year, and I was going to rewatch and reconsider. And that second viewing certainly helped add to it for me. It didn't make my top list, but it's one that is certainly stuck with me and contains some of my favourite moments and experiences of the year and within the cinema. So I'm glad to see that it's overcome perhaps the a remake kind of reputation to get high on your list.
Yeah, I think what it was is that it was so different in style and tone that I could see it as a different film. Yeah, it's got a ballet school, it's run by witches, but that's about it in terms of the similarities. I think, as I said on the podcast before, it's like in the original film they're in a ballet school, but you don't actually really see any ballet. In this, you do get a lot more focus on the dance and the dance sequences. And I mean, the first one is just probably one of my scenes of the year where Dakota Johnson's character is performing this dance, and it basically is twisting and sort of torturing this poor girl in another part of the building, and it's just like one of the sort of sickest, most disturbing things you will see. I say this year, last year, but basically of all time almost. It's just, I don't know how they did it, but it was just really disturbing to see. And then the Volk dance sequence was fantastic, but it just sort of slowly ramps up and up until you get to. I mean, for some people, they thought it wasn't really enough. It took too long to get going. But I mean, when it cranks it up to 11 in the final act, it's just like, what the hell am I watching? But I loved every sort of demented minute of it. So
yeah, I'm glad. Yeah, I think it's a fantastic film, and yeah, I noticed there's not yet been announced a Blu-ray yet for it, but I'd love to see some behind-the-scenes documentaries. I mean, a bit of a Blu-ray of old, sort of with some special features and an audio commentary. And when my feeling is when this film gets to Blu-ray, the screenshots will start to go around, which will be pretty exciting, and that hopefully someone on Etsy will start making those Madame Blanc Studios or whatever posters that we see dotted around in the film that looks so awesome. I'd love to have one of those on my wall.
Yeah, no, I really need to get one of those, and hopefully one day that'll be released. But yeah, no, I'm looking forward to the Blu-ray when it eventually comes. Although I guess with the fact it was released by Mubi streaming service in the UK, there might be a slight delay on the Blu-ray, who knows. But if nothing else, for a behind-the-scenes featurette about Lutz Eberdorf, I'm there for that.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah, that'll be an interesting one.
I think I know from all your social media tweets over the last year that I think I know what your number one pick is going to be, but for the listeners out there, what is it?
Again, sort of going with not sticking to any sort of UK release things. I caught this at the London Film Festival and I've not been able to shake it since, and that's Vox Lux, which I know that you now got a chance to see when you were over in New York, which means that I can have a conversation finally about it with you.
Yes, I mean, I don't know how spoiler heavy you want to go in, because
we can go quiet, because I suppose it's not out yet. So
it's not out yet.
We'll skirt round.
But I know that. Well, it was a rainy day in New York, and basically we took refuge in the cinema, and this was on. So I basically, said, let's go and see this, because there was a chance to see The Favourite and loads of other sort of Oscar films, but Vox Lux does not have a UK release date, and I'm always one of those people. I was like, oh well, I've got the chance to see it. It might not come out for a few months, so I want to see it. Although I then discovered after I went to see it that another cinema actually had a Q&A with Natalie Portman on that evening.
Oh my God.
So I missed out on that, because that would have been amazing. But I mean, I'd heard great things coming out of the LFF, so I hadn't seen any trailers, so I went in, and yeah, the first sort of 5 minutes, my wife was utterly shocked and sort of cowering into me at that point, because it was very unexpected. But I really, really enjoyed it. It was a weird one. It's one that I wasn't sure on leaving. I was like, I'm not sure if I couldn't really gather my thoughts properly on it. I was a bit unsure whether I really liked it or whether I didn't, because it's one which some people will really connect with, some people won't. But I know that Natalie Portman was utterly fantastic, as probably the worst human being alive. I think she plays an utterly horrendous person, but she does it brilliantly, I have to say. And I'm surprised that she's not being talked about more for Best Supporting Actress, because it's a barnstorming performance. But what did you like about it, and what were your favourite parts of it?
What I liked about it is that I can't really talk about what I liked about it, to be honest, because I want people to get what I got out of that movie. And what I would say is, you almost feel that when you see a movie like this, and I remembered when I noticed you'd seen it, I was like, when you watch the trailers for this movie, you think, yeah, it looks like a slightly more cynical version of something like A Star Is Born. It's a bit of a focus on the music. It plays a lot of things, you think that looks good. Yeah, I'd be interested in seeing that. And then you see the movie, or if you see the movie then see the trailers, both of them are such wildly different beasts to each other. And I really like that this is a film publicity campaign that is keeping so much of its powder dry. I mean, I was looking at something the other day, I typed in Voxlux images into Google, and there was like just some sort of, pictures of Natalie Portman and that kicking around on the beach and some of the posters, but nothing in it sort of showed where this film was kind of potentially going, or some of the more darker edges of it all. And I just think, like, when you go into that movie and you watch that first 15 minutes, you are either going to be whiplashed because you don't know what to expect, or you're going to be whiplashed because you saw the trailer and you thought, oh, we're going to get maybe a nice date movie, or it's Natalie Portman or whatever. And I think you're in for so many surprises. I mean, Natalie Portman, it's not a spoiler to say she is the supporting actor in it. You watch a movie like this and think, oh, she's going to be in every single scene. She doesn't kind of come through for quite a while, to be honest, in the movie. And it's Raffi Cassidy who is sort of in a dual role that really leads the film, and she's incredible in this movie. I just think it's my type of humor. It's really dark, it's cynical, it's biting, and it's a film I'm so desperate to see again. I noticed that Curzon have picked up their UK rights, so when we'll see that film remains to be seen, but we will get it in the UK, and I for one can't wait.
Yeah, no, I can see why it made your top spot, and I expect there's a chance on a rewatch when it finally comes to the UK that it might feature quite heavily in my 2019 top 5 or top 10. But I guess we'll have to see by the end of the year what else comes out. But perhaps some of our most anticipated films will end up being at the top of our lists, or it might go the other way and we might be incredibly disappointed, because I was looking at my 2018 list and there was some absolute stinkers in there in the end that I was really looking forward to and was quite let down by. But I guess it's time to see what we're looking forward to in 2019, and there might be a bit more crossover, I think, on our list this time around, perhaps.
Absolutely. So, well, I suppose we'll just reel them off and stuff. So, what are your top 5 then?
Well, my top 5, I've gone with chronological order in terms of release. I think was the easiest way to do it for me. And the first one that I'm really looking forward to is out actually at the end of next week, and that is Glass by M. Night Shyamalan.
That is not on my list, but I am curious to see it.
Yeah, no. I remember when I watched Split, and I really enjoyed the film. I thought James McAvoy was brilliant in it, absolutely fantastic performance. But when the ending came and a certain musical cue from Unbreakable came in, and then it was revealed that Bruce Willis's David Dunn was in it, and this movie was essentially a stealth sequel to Unbreakable, I was just like, nearly screaming out loud in the cinema. I just couldn't believe it. I was just like, oh my god, I couldn't remember someone doing something like this before, and the fact that it had been kept so secret up until release, and the prospect of, Unbreakable for me is M. Night's best film, and it's probably the best film about comic books, not comic book movie, but the best film about comic books, and I'm really excited to see if they can recapture that magic and deliver a really good third film. I mean, it's got Sarah Paulson in it now, as well as all the 3 main actors. Samuel Jackson's back as well, and I'm just keeping my fingers crossed that it can live up to the hype that's in my head of what I'm looking forward to. But the trailers are promising, so it's. But for me, it's a reason why I'm really looking forward to that one.
I look forward to covering this one again in a future episode too.
Yeah, well, I've rewatched Unbreakable and Split in advance of doing a future episode. Will you be rewatching in
I
advance?
certainly will. Yeah, I haven't watched them I haven't watched Unbreakable since I had it on VHS, so I'm very curious to revisit it.
VHS, the halcyon days. Yeah. So what's your?
It was a cardboard one as well. It was quite a special one.
A cardboard slate. Oh, very nice. Very nice. So, what is your first film that you're looking forward to in 2019?
Well, in 2017, Natalie Portman and Jackie was my favourite film of that year. Last year was Vox Lux with Natalie Portman. So I'm kind of hopeful that Lucy in the Sky with Natalie Portman could potentially be in 2019 one. And it's based on a true story, and it's a psychological sci-fi thriller. about a NASA love triangle. So, based on the true story of Lucy Cola, who comes back from Earth, where she was romantically involved with another astronaut who will be played by John Hamm. And when he starts dating another woman, she doesn't take it well. And wearing one of the diapers that astronauts wear in space, she takes a deranged non-stop road trip across 5 states with lethal weapons in her truck to go hunt him down. So I'm very curious to check out that movie. I remember the story at the time, and I'm like, yep, colour me interested. I'm curious to see this film. So yeah, I think it'll be an interesting one for sure.
Wow, that does sound. I haven't actually heard much about this film. That's strange, but it's you've got me hooked by the by that. Well, let's see the cast. Oh, we've got Dan Stevens and Zazie Beetz from Deadpool 2. So yeah, so yeah, no, color me intrigued, and yeah, I'm looking for. Okay, Noah Hawley, who did okay, Legion and Fargo and stuff. Yeah, no, color me interested. In so it's not anything to do with the Beatles song though.
Unfortunately, not. No, or anything to do with the William Shatner cover.
Oh, now if they. Oh, please make sure that is the end credit song. I would love that to be the end credit song. Cool. So, my second film that I'm really looking forward to in 2019 is one, again, that I did not know too much about. I don't think any of us really knew too much about until the trailer dropped just before, actually on Christmas Day. And this is the follow-up to Jordan Peele's Get Out, and that is Us. And it was always described as it was probably going to be a horror film, but yeah, it was certainly not this sort of family Christmas around the table family viewing it. But the trailer for me sold me completely. Sort of I've got 5 on it in a sort of really sort of slowed down, sinister way. You know, it shows the story of a black family who head down to a beach house for a weekend away, and then start to get terrorized by some figures outside. But then it appears that the figures are doppelgangers or something. Again, we don't know too much about it, but just the style of the trailer, it really sort of shows that Jordan Peele is becoming a master of his craft in the horror genre, and I cannot wait to see this film.
It was a hell of a trailer, so this is another one I'm really excited for. I almost didn't need to see this movie to be excited for what he was going to do next.
Yeah, so what's your number 2 in 2019?
I am so looking forward to Jojo Rabbit, the new film from Taika Waititi. So a young boy in Hitler's army finds out that his mother is hiding a Jewish boy in their home. So, only Taika Waititi could follow up, the mainstream success where he could do absolutely anything he wanted in the world after the success of Thor 3 with a movie where he plays the role of Adolf Hitler in a Nazi comedy. Well, so it stars Taika Waititi, Sam Rockwell, Scarlett Johansson, Rebel Wilson, Stephen Merchant. And I for one can't wait. I'm sure we've all, many film hipsters have probably seen the picture of Taika Waititi dressed as Adolf Hitler, checking out Scarlett Johansson as this mum at the dinner table. It looks nuts, and I'm really curious to see what Taika Waititi is going to do, what the hell he's doing. And I know it's based on a novel, but I've never even heard of this novel, and I'm really excited to see where this kind of goes or what this movie is going to be about. It seems absolutely nuts, but I'm in.
Yeah, no, I mean, the Taika Waititi sense of humour is probably an acquired taste. I mean, I absolutely adored What We Did in the Shadows. Hunt for the Wilder People was a much more sort of sweeter, sort of more family-friendly tale. But yeah, I think this is one which is probably going to it'll probably shock and offend the Daily Mail crowd who won't even watch it or will not have even seen any of it, but just purely on the fact that it's got an imaginary friend of Adolf Hitler in it will call for boycotts and stuff like this, pretty much the way they did with that Brass Eye episode about drugs, but then admitted they never actually watched it, so didn't get the joke. But yeah, no, this should be a great film and a great comedy, I think.
Excellent. What's your next choice?
Well, I don't think it's gonna surprise anyone that I'm really looking forward to seeing how everything gets wrapped up in Avengers Endgame, even though Edinburgh will probably not feature in it this time around.
No, I would suspect we're out of the game now.
Yeah, but yeah, for me, the Marvel Cinematic Universe has shown the world how to build this extended cinematic universe, and the fact that Infinity War was as good as it was just outside my top five. But I thought the way that they pulled all the storylines together, it was fantastic. I thought Thanos was a really brilliant villain. Josh Brolin's performance was great. The CGI was utterly fantastic, and you could actually see his point. That's the sign of a great villain, that you can understand the villain's point of view. I mean, they always think they're right anyway, but you could kind of see his point that populations are growing, and whatever resources are low, let's hit the switch. But I think the fact that the trailer sold it for me, and the fact that it's bringing in, even though the Ant-Man films are maybe not thought of as highly as the rest of them, I think Paul Rudd's Ant-Man is fantastic, and I think he's going to be a welcome addition to the team this time round. And I'm really excited to see how they pull it all together. And tears could be shed, because I think a few contracts are up, and not everyone's going to properly make it out of there alive. I mean, is anyone really dead in a comic book movie? Who knows? But I think there will be tears.
Yeah, I think that's probably the film most people are anticipating for the year. So yeah, I'm curious to check out. I actually watched Infinity War yesterday. It was on cable TV here, and I was just like, oh, I'll just watch it for a wee bit. And then I ended up spending like 2.5 hours watching it, and it still really holds up. So yeah, I can't wait to see how they get out of this hijinks.
Absolutely. But I expect we're not going to know anything more about it, because I know that recently Kevin Feige said the trailers and whatever will probably not show anything more than apparently the first 15 minutes of the film. But I don't think you even need to trailer or market this film. People will turn up. As long as you tell them what day to turn up, they're going to turn up. They don't care. It's fine. So what else are you looking forward to in 2019?
Simply put, I am looking forward to finally bloody seeing 8th Grade. So I will see this soon. I'm hoping it's going to be announced this before screening at Glasgow Film Festival. If not, I will be seeing it in April, when it is the counter-programmed movie to Avengers Endgame. I cannot wait for this bloody movie, and I just wish it would hurry up.
You mean you weren't tempted to get a copy when you were over in America?
No, I wasn't, because I'm now at the stage where I've committed to seeing it on the big screen first and foremost. Like, I was at one point I was like, well, maybe I could buy the Blu-ray when I was over there, but I was like, no, I want to see it in the cinema first. And it feels like I've waited this long to see it at this point. I might as well just follow it through. So yeah, I'm going to hold out, and I can't wait to see this movie at long last, or potentially I've overhyped it so much in my head that I'm just going to be disappointed.
No, I'm sure you won't be, but it will make for a very interesting double bill with Avengers Endgame on the 26th of April.
Exactly. It could be the surprise. I'm going to maybe put a 5 on it going to number 1 at the box office that week.
Absolutely. Yeah, no one's going to watch Avengers. Everyone's going to, turn out to see 8th Grade instead, yeah.
Absolutely. So what's your next one?
My next one is one which, again, I don't have too much information on it, but the director and the cast have sold it for me, and that is Rian Johnson's next film after The Last Jedi, Knives Out, which is described as a traditional murder mystery starring Daniel Craig, Chris Evans, Ana de Armas from Blade Runner 2049, Michael Shannon, and who else? There's quite a few other people. Jamie Lee Curtis, Toni Collette, Christopher Plummer, Lakeith Steinfeld, Catherine Langford, Don Johnson. Wow. Basically, yeah, modern murder mystery, classic whodunit style. Yeah, I'm there. I mean, I loved Looper. I love The Last Jedi. I'm all for The Last Jedi. I like the direction that he took in it. It's been argued to death on the nerd party in various forms. There's many people on each side of the fence, but for me, I really liked it, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what he does with this as well.
I that was close to getting onto my list as well, but one cast sort of edged ahead of this cast for me, and that was the Little Women, the Greta Gerwig adaptation of the novel, which will have Florence Pugh, Saoirse Ronan, Emma Watson, Timothée Chalamet, Meryl Streep, Laura Dern, Bob Odenkirk, Chris Cooper. And yeah, I was like, yeah, I have to side with that. I mean, I'm a sucker for Greta Gerwig, so this movie just edged ahead of that movie for me.
I had that down as a 2020 release, but you're probably going on the fact it'll probably be at the London International Film Festival, and you'll probably catch it there.
I'm hoping so.
Yeah,
I'm hoping so, and I will already be trying to whore ourselves onto the red carpet for that film.
Absolutely, get wearing our girls on top tees, absolutely.
Exactly.
Actually, by that point, there'll probably be a T-shirt for every single woman appearing in Little Women. So yeah.
They're bound to do Saoirse Ronan next, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, because they've got Laura Dern already. They could do Emma Watson. They'll do Emma Stone. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, it'll be fine. Yeah, we'll just have to do very quick costume changes between interviews. That's all.
So, have you got any other final movies that you're looking forward to?
Well, I just mentioned The Last Jedi, and I couldn't really round up my top 5 without putting Star Wars Episode 9. Again, just to see how they wrap up this part of the saga. Going into Force Awakens, my expectations were subdued given the disasters that were some of the prequels, but I thought J.J. Abrams did a great job of I'm not going to say building a new universe, because it was all very much tied into the existing world, but I love what Rian Johnson did. Will J.J. Abrams continue along that road, or will he sort of backtrack and sort of decide that Rey did actually have some parents who were actually important characters in it or not? I guess we'll wait to find out, but I'm looking forward to seeing what happened. And for me, Adam Driver is potentially going to become the best Star Wars villain for me, even better than Darth Vader. I think he's a fantastic actor, and I've loved what he's done as Kylo Ren, and I really think that he's got the potential to be one of the greatest Star Wars characters of all time. So I'm looking forward to seeing how that turns out.
Excellent. Well, yeah, I'll have one last one, and I'll briefly mention The Lighthouse, which is Robert Edgar's follow-up to the 2015 The Witch. So it's all about Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson as characters in a remote part of Nova Scotia, contending with a new set of contending with a new set of supernatural circumstances in a lighthouse. So I'm very curious to see the follow-up to The Witch, one of the best films of that year, and I'm curious to see Willem Dafoe in anything that, obviously Aquaman excluded, which was awful. I'm curious to see him and Robert Pattinson together in this movie. So yeah, I think it's going to be another one for 2019 to look forward to.
Absolutely, and it's definitely going to be a future A24 project watch as well, because it's released by A24.
I would think so. Sorted.
Excellent. That's a very good list. Yeah, very good list, and not too mainstream as well. I went with a couple of big mainstream options.
I wouldn't want to be too predictable.
I probably shouldn't have, because you're always going to go and see those ones. But yeah, for me, there wasn't actually a huge amount in 2019 that at the moment was screaming out to me. Those were the ones. I mean, as I learn a bit more, I'll be a bit. I mean, I'm not sure if Wes Anderson's new film's coming out in 2019, but if it does, then definitely a sort of musical set in Paris during the 50s about press people. Yeah, that sounds something that's typically Wes Anderson and right up my street, given how good Isle of Dogs was as well.
Absolutely, I think that's a 2021 personally, but I guess we'll find out. But yeah, if people are wanting to find out more about these movies over the course of the year, we'll be picking on movies like, we had a nice mixture there of big movies and small movies, which you'll get kind of pretty much most weeks here with us on Filibuster. We'll be kind of highlighting all movies, big and small, not just the big mainstream ones, and not just focusing on the indie cinema as well. So hopefully something for everyone. So Dallas, if people wanted to follow you through the year and your film going experiences, where can kind of people find you?
They can find
online?
me on Twitter at champcelluloid, and my blog is championshipseller.blogspot.com, and I think you can also find me on Letterboxd as well, where I'm hoping to keep a better track of all my films. And certainly my New Year's resolution is got two New Year's resolutions. One is to try and complete the 52 films by women challenge, and also to try stop saying in the podcast, as I've noticed I do it quite a lot, so that's something I'm going to try and cut down on. So
we all have bad habits and so on. And yeah, you can find me on Letterboxd under Lee Hutchison, and you can find me on Twitter at Lee_Nostromo. So look, we look forward to watching lots of exciting movies this year, and we look forward to you hopefully enjoying our journey with us, and hopefully you'll enjoy our journey as well and stuff along the year, and let us know what you think of the films and that we've loved in 2018 and are looking forward to in 2019, and let us know what you're looking forward to. So until next time, goodbye.
Join the revolution. Join the Nerd Party.
Welcome to Nerd Party.